welcome back to Chicago. There we see the Hazel Johnson mural there on the back of the Prudential. We have an extremely hot and muggy day today. So here, let's cross the street here. We got the light. It's so steamy. I'm seeing like fog here.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, how you doing? That's good, thanks. People saying hello here. People heading to the loop here. We'll see if anybody can join in. I'm a little early today. Hey, Oza, how you doing there? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, we're back in Chicago. It's hot and muggy. Next 2 days is going to be hot and muggy here. There's the train heading around the bend there. There it is. We'll head right over there. Yeah, good afternoon, Lambie, Nisi, Diana. My Aunt Diana's tuning in there. How you doing there, Diane? Appreciate it. Charles, how you doing there? Yeah, I was kind of distracted looking at the comments when I was crossing the street. I was trying to zoom into the train there, and I was zooming into nothing. But hey, my Aunt Diana's tuning in. Hope you're doing well there. And hope you're continuing on your recovery there. And yeah, I talked to Della. Della might be heading up this way next month. In the month, I might ride back with her. So I might be back in September. I know we got a bunch of birthdays coming up there at that time, so we'll talk more about that. My dad's and Mikey's and all kinds of things here. Here's the parking garage. It looks like a car here. It's good to be back in Chicago. Weather wasn't too bad this weekend. We went and saw the Venetian night. If you missed that, you can check that out on TikTok. But yeah, I should be back at the beginning of September. I'm hoping to be back your way there first half of September. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk more about it. But there's the pink line heading around the bend there. Yeah, let's head over towards I guess they got a DJ at Daily Plaza, but usually not too many people just show up for the DJ there. We'll see what's on the marquee at the here comes the green line here around the bend here. We'll get the green line around in here. This is Wabash and Lake Street here. There, you can see it around in the bend there. Look at that. Man, it's hot and steamy. I know it's nothing compared to the area I just left there in North Carolina. They're going to get 5 days of 100 degrees actual temperature, and that's not even the heat index with the humidity there. So here we'll head over to State Street. Hey Michael, how you doing there? Charles, yeah, and ECG there. Yeah, I like how people get to know each other here. You know, that's why we saw and she told me before I went to North Carolina, Lake Orion, which I think is in Michigan, but that's what she has her name there. We ran into her on the Riverwalk on Saturday night with her daughter. They were there checking out Venetian night, and she said they were there the night before and they checked out Art on the Mart. We got to see Art on the Mart a little bit on Saturday night. I didn't stick around for the fireworks, but I'm sure there were other people that covered the fireworks there. Yeah. See, Lambie and Michael, and yeah, the heat. Looks like we're going to fortunately get a break there by Thursday. There's supposed to be hot in Chicago and this area of the Midwest until Wednesday. Wednesday we're going to get storms and thunderstorms and things like that, and then it's going to cool down for Lollapalooza just in time. The forecast for Lollapalooza looks fabulous. It looks like low 80s and sun, and maybe even like upper 70s, which is amazing for the beginning of August compared to the heat the rest of the country's getting. But hey, Ringo Starr, we knew Ringo Starr and his all-star band's going to be there in September, Chicago Theater. We'll cross the street here once we get the light here. Should be able to cross here in a second. Yeah, the light's changing here. We're at Lake and State here. So hey, we'll show you the Chicago Theater here. What do we got here? July the 28th, 2025 here, lunchtime. We're just before the noon hour here on a Monday. There, Michael Learns to Rock, August 27th. But Ringo Starr, 85 years old, he's still touring. Isn't that amazing? There's ESPN Chicago. I don't know why they got the sidewalk all messed up here. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, come to Chicago, steal a car. Yeah, that's what we're known for. You can't steal my car. You know why? I don't own a car. So it's one less thing you don't own a car in Chicago, one less thing you have to worry about. But hey, there's Chicago Theater. That's why when I rent cars, somebody wants to steal my rental car, I'm like, go ahead and steal it. It's a rental car. I'll get another rental car. Take this one, I'll get another one. Just like a divvy bike. You want to steal my divvy bike? Go ahead. Throw it in the lake. You're just stealing from a corporation. Hey, go ahead, steal from the corporations. Corporations steal from us all the time. It's the only way we can get back. But there's Zakir Khan, Chris DiStefano, Mojo Brooks, Chicago Theater, but Ringo Starr. There's the red line there. We took the blue line to get to O'Hare, one block over. But hey, State Street, that great street on a Monday. It's not crowded at all downtown. Yeah, Taco's tuning in there. Seattle, cool 70s in Seattle. That's great. Well, thanks for tuning in from Seattle there. Yeah, thanks for tapping the screen there. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, a few minutes early there, Wes and Crime Vault there. I jumped the, I was chomping at the bit to get streaming here today. Here we should be able to cross the street here. Yeah, we're at Randolph and State, the old Marshall Fields there, Macy's. Here's the block 37. Yeah, the Nederlander there. Yeah, Chatal, how you doing there? Getting the whole band back together. Thanks for letting me take a few days off last week while I was traveling for work. We did get a lunchtime in on Thursday. I could have maybe did one on Friday, but I was just exhausted by the time I got to the airport. We did stream for almost 2 hours on TikTok, and we saw the mascot. We saw the mascot for DePaul University, Dibs. And I'm always caught by surprise. You know, I went to University of Cincinnati, so DePaul was our rival, and I didn't know the DePaul. The guy, he probably was laughing at me. I was all stammering. I'm like, oh, there's the Blue Demon himself, but it was Dibs. They don't like people calling their mascot the Demon there, because DePaul University, of course, is Catholic affiliated there. But we saw the Dibs mascot for the DePaul Blue Demons there walking into the Taste of Lincoln there. I didn't even get to the Taste of Lincoln, even though it was down the street from me, because we went and did the Venetian night. But here, let's just stay on this side of the street. I don't think there's much going on at Daily Plaza today, even though there's a DJ. I commend the DJ there. They don't have some good music there if you want to party down there at Daily Plaza. We'll just head through the loop here a little bit, stay in the shade as much as possible. Yeah. No, there are not dogs chasing me. I'm sure you got some ulterior motive for asking that, so go ahead, do your worst. Make fun of me or make fun of Chicago, whatever you're going to do, get it over with. Or maybe you're just making fun of dogs or me. That's fine, whatever your intention is there. Hey, we got a DJ here. So there's the DJ, and they do their best to try to get people. It's just too hot to dance today. Even when I walked to work this morning, it's so humid that if you exert yourself in any way, you're immediately covered with sweat. So you can sweat there on Daily Plaza where there's no trees. But here, we'll head under the Channel 2 News here. We're on Dearborn Street here, loop of Chicago. Yeah, there's City Hall, Daily Plaza, Picasso. There's Channel 2 News here. Here's the, yeah, so you can watch the live news broadcast. Usually we catch the weather here. There's Picasso, Daily Plaza. They got the charity people there. Yeah, let's head down. Let's go down and see if we can see if they're setting up for Lollapalooza. We'll kind of head back to Grant Park here. We'll head a little further south into the loop here, and then we'll circle around here. Yeah, Chicago, the rain. Anita, thanks for tuning in there. The rain, Chatal. Brandon, how you doing there? Yeah, there's excuses for homeless. Corporate America, corporate greed is at an all-time high. You know, if you like Larry Fink, if you like BlackRock lighting up the Panama Canal, there was corporate greed under the Biden administration. There's corporate greed under the Trump administration. Corporations are governments unto themselves. They buy elections, and if you don't think that's true, think of the influence of Elon Musk and his corporation, Citizens United. So, yes, there is still homelessness in the age of Trump. There are excuses. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just saying there is winners and losers in any economy. And there's certainly losers in Trump's economy, and there'll be winners in Trump's economy. It's mainly the people that won under Biden's economy will win under Trump's economy. The billionaires and the richest corporations, people that own stocks and equities and land and property, they're going to continue to win. And the rest of us that work for a wage, we're the ones that lose because incomes have not grown as fast as equities, price of land. Everybody's feeling the effects of inflation. And if you own something, you benefit from asset price increase. If you don't own stuff, if you rent or work for a living, don't own the corporation and get paid as a wage, we lose. And it's a big trick. Federal Reserve's been doing it for years. Isn't it interesting that the president's picking a battle against the Federal Reserve? You know, it's a symbiotic relationship. Wall Street needs the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve needs Wall Street. The government needs Wall Street to be strong so they can get tax capital gains and tax what little corporations get taxed. So here, they're still working on the Chase Plaza here. We're just heading down Dearborn Street, the heart of the loop here. We're going by the Chase Plaza here. There's this building. This building was supposed to be taller, just like the Calatrava Spire got scaled back during the Great Recession. Here's Monroe stop on the Blue Line. So if you take the Blue Line in from O'Hare and you go past Clark and Lake, you can go to the Monroe stop here and get off right in the center of the loop here. Blue Line. So it's Chicago. Welcome to Chicago. Hey, you tuning in from Italy? Yeah, we had Venetian night on Saturday night, even though we're in Chicago. We people decorated their boats and celebrated their Italian heritage on the Riverwalk there, and there was a lot of other stuff going on this weekend. And we got Lollapalooza coming up. We got Fiesta del Sol coming up. Here's the Inland Steel Building. We talk about it all the time. Mid-century modern, historically significant architecture, or building for an architect's perspective here. I'm not an architect. I just play one for TV here. But here we're down by Monroe and Dearborn Street here. I'm steamy in Chicago. Yeah, cornfields here. Raining up in Lincoln Square. Yeah, I know rain's on the way here. We got rain. There's a chance of rain later today. Actually, probably. Let's see if I can make it back to the office without getting hit by a stray shower. I know there are thunderstorms in the area. Just like this morning, we danced amongst the raindrops, and we made it. We made it to work this morning. But we got 12:08, so we got plenty of time here. I'll just continue down Dearborn Street. Maybe let's head all the way to the South Loop. Maybe we got time to head all the way to the South Loop. Go down past these vintage skyscrapers here. Just like the Marquette building, we talk about this, Halliburton Roche, an early steel frame construction skyscraper. I know it doesn't look like a skyscraper, but in the 1890s, this was a pretty tall building. Look how thick the cornice is. Look how wide the windows are, the Chicago style windows. That was an innovation of the steel frame construction where they could pull the weight of the building onto the beams there, and eventually got became the international style. So you see how this eventually became this, where they completely stripped out the brick and just kept the steel and the glass and didn't even do the ornamentation or the cornice or the brick veneer. They would just strip it down as glass and steel, the international style, similar to this here, 131 Dearborn. So, birth of the skyscraper, spread throughout the world, Chicago and New York City. One of the early vintage skyscrapers here, the Marquette building. We went inside it. There's beautiful the mosaics there, mother of pearl there that commemorates the Marquette and Joliet exposition there in the 1680s there in the lobby. There's Burkhoff's. Here comes the big bus. Yeah, so there's some media there. I don't think there's too much going on here. It looks like there's something. Do I want to cross here? Let's see. Nope, it just. But here's the Federal Plaza here. There's the Calder flamingo statue there. It looks like there's some media and maybe some politicians or something going to say something there. There's the post office. That's a low one-story post office. I think that's the last post office in the loop, what I know. Tallest building in Chicago is the Sears Tower. We'll get a really good view of it here in a second. So it's good that you asked that. I'll try to, let's see if the bus is coming here. So here, let's, so if you look right there, you see there's the Sears Tower. There's the side view of the Sears Tower, over 1,400 feet tall. It's over 400 meters tall. There it is, the Sears Tower. And we're over here by the Federal Plaza. See the Calder statue there, the red thing? That's a flamingo sculpture at Federal Plaza. Here's the Monadnock building. Of course, I posted that rerun. You see how there's a cornice on the south half. On the north half, there's not a cornice. And the reason is the north half, it's load-bearing walls. And so the brick and the thick walls support the 16, 18 stories, however many that is. Here, we'll go over there and check it out here. The Monadnock building. And then the southern half is steel frame construction. So right here, there are a lot of vintage early skyscrapers in Chicago. This is on Dearborn Street. We're going to head to the South Loop here really quickly on this hot, humid day here. See, UIC has a bunch of space here. DePaul University has stuff along State Street. Columbia College in Chicago and Roosevelt University all have dorms and classroom space. Here's the Monadnock building, is what we were just talking about. See, look how thick the walls are here. And I'll walk through the bottom because we've got reruns here. It'll give me a chance to get out of the hot weather here. Here's the top of the Sears. We've done this before. We got reruns of this, so I won't even worry about an intelligentsia here. Thank you. Here's Optimo hat makers, so a real haberdashery. Oops. Here, trying to hold up. Thank you. A real haberdashery here in Chicago in the Monadnock building. If you like fedoras, hats, see they got all the wooden molds here where they stretch the leather. This is a real haberdashery here, like Harry Truman used to own here, a hat store. You like real fedora hats or Stetson's hats or anything, go to Optimo here in the Monadnock building. You got the letterbox. This is a historic arcade. You walk through here. This portion of the building's load-bearing walls. The southern half is steel frame construction. And they got this arcade where you can walk through the bottom. They got a florist. You know, where else do you get an early version of a mall? This was, again, built in the 1890s. You know, and it's still used to this day. Original use, these classic storefronts that both have a storefront on Dearborn and an interior corridor. See, he's getting his shoe shines here. Right here, this the cobbler. They'll fix the shoe right your weight. Here's all the shoes here. This is Dashing Chicago. Dashing Chicago. Get your shoes there, your ties. They got some Floridora. There's some restaurants and stuff across the way. I guess they're closed on Monday. But look at this letterbox. This is the Monadnock building in the southern end of the loop here. Here we got a tobacco shop, Monadnock. See a real humidor, and here's Harry's Sandwich Shop. Harry's Sandwich Shop. You can go up to the counter here. CS Travel, and here's a real barber shop here. How you doing? What a beautiful, look at the doors. Yeah, real barber shop here with the barber pole. We walk through the bottom of the Monadnock building. Here we are underneath the loop here. So here's the Fisher's building, another early vintage skyscraper. You see how narrow, how much more window than wall. That was an innovation of the steel frame construction here. We're going to start as we go underneath Van Buren Street. This is the library stop on the loop of Chicago. Here's the old Colony building. Again, a vintage skyscraper, goes back to the 1890s. 407 South Dearborn. Then we got the Plymouth building, but then more significant is the Manhattan building. This is William Lamberry Jennings. He was the architect that designed the first skyscraper, the home insurance company, which has been destroyed. Here comes the train, the Brown line heading into the library stop on the loop of Chicago. Here's the Plymouth building. But there, look at the William Lamberry Jennings. Most of his buildings, they look like that. They look like several buildings stacked on top of each other. And this goes back to the early 1890s, the Manhattan building here, South Dearborn Street. These vintage 1, 2, 3, 4 vintage skyscrapers, 5 with the Monadnock building. We'll head down in the Printers Row here. We got 1216. Yeah, the Brown line goes to Kimball. Detective John Kimball. Brown line. Yeah. It used to be called the Ravenswood line, but now they call it the Brown line. They switched all to color-coded train lines here, Dearborn Street. So here you can see the top of the Monadnock. But here, let's head down. Let's see if we can make it down to Dearborn Station, and then we'll circle around. So we got blue skies here. It is clouding up a little bit. Here, we'll show you the Chicago Stock Exchange. There's the water tower. Yeah, we'll head over here. We'll check out this mural. So there's gas prices there. $4.09. It's going back up. It was $3.99. Now it's $4.09. There's the Sears Tower. There's the federal courthouse. So you see the Sears Tower in front of it. That's the federal courthouse. That's a prison where people are being held for the federal courthouses up here, and that's why it's in this location. That's why there's a skyscraper prison in the loop of Chicago, because of the federal prison. And we're here at Ida B. Wells. We'll cross the street there. We'll get this view. This is Ida B. Wells. Used to be Congress. There's the train going across there. There's the Chicago Stock Exchange. You see how it's over top of Ida B. Wells here. And there's the tower associated with the stock exchange there. And there's the Sears Tower, the 311 South Wacker building. We're on Dearborn. And Ida B. Wells here. There you can see back of the Board of Trade there. And there you can look up Dearborn there. But here, let's go down Dearborn Street here. Hey, it's got the outdoor seating with all the ferns here. Now, I was in Texas in June, and then last week I was in North Carolina for work, and now I'm back in Chicago. So thanks for tuning in there, Graham and everybody else there. Yeah, Christopher, you got all over the place. You rode almost every train line. Yeah, you could take the green line and get off there at Cermak and walk a few extra blocks. You can also take the red line, which is probably what you took. The red line will get you right to Chinatown. Look at the bottom. Look at these sculptures holding up the bay windows here. That's why Printers Row has some really interesting buildings. It's called the Morton Building. See, they're just vintage commercial steel frame construction warehouses that are converted into housing. And see, you got the storefronts on the bottom. Look how thick the veneer is for the stone here. It's amazing how thick this block, stone block, is at the bottom of these buildings here. But here we're at Harrison. We're at Harrison and Dearborn Street. This is a lot of what the South Loop looks like, these long, narrow buildings. And when it was Printers Row, the printers liked these long, narrow buildings because they would let light on both sides. Isn't that amazing? They were thinking about that at the early age of electrified light. And there was a bunch of railroad, well, the Dearborn Station was here. There was a bunch of railroad yards, so that's why there was a lot more industrial uses in the South Loop of Chicago when all this was train yards, and that included printing of books, printing of music, sheet music, printing of school materials. All that used to happen here in Printers Row, and then it went away and moved to other areas and became trucked around instead of going by the rail. So then in the 70s, beginning in the 1970s, mainly in the 80s and 90s, this area was reused as a bedroom community for the Loop, and people moved in this area before there were any grocery stores or anything. South Loop of Chicago. Look at the size of these buildings here. So there's a park across the street. We'll check it out here, this fountain, and we'll show you Dearborn Station here. Yeah, you know, everything is a continuum. You know, I saw I'm very happy to see there's other Chicago city planners other than me live streaming and posting content and pointing out some of the same stuff I point out about parking lots next to transit stations, how it could be a better use if that was housing. I know not everybody wants to live next to a noisy L train, but other people do. Different strokes for different folks. Here, I hear some thunder. So, hey. Sounds like there's some thunderstorms in the area. People are walking the dogs here. So here's this is the Printers Row little park here. And see how they got the typeface. We'll show this fountain here. They got a beautiful fountain. And here in Printers Row, here Dearborn Street, down by Plymouth, and these other side streets by Dearborn Station. Look at this nice fountain here, South Loop of Chicago, Printers Row. To me, it's like Art Deco. It's like an Art Deco fountain. I don't know the full history of it here. But look, I like these signs. There is no poop fairy. Clean up after your dog. Yeah, that's nice. But see how they got the typeface? This is because this was Printers Row, and that's how they used to reverse the type, and you roll the ink on it. And see Plymouth Court, they got the names of the streets. Polk and Clark and House Place. But look at these buildings here. There is some rain coming through. I saw a few drops there. Look at these beautiful buildings here. South Dearborn Street, Printers Row, South Loop of Chicago. And you see how here's Dearborn Station. See that clock tower? That's a railroad station. It was a railroad station. Now it's no longer used as that. It's just they removed the rail yards, the rails, the trains no longer come in. And behind it, where there used to be the rail yards, is housing. They built some low-scale housing. Here's San Meyer's Bookstore. San Meyer's Bookstore is an historic building. William LeBary and Jenny, the Row Building, built in 1892. The Row Building, R-O-W-E building. That's how it's spelled. It was renovated. There it is, Row. And this is where San Meyer's Bookstore, a locally owned bookstore here, San Meyer's Bookstore. In the fall, we'll come back here. Well, it depends on if I'm in town. I might not be in town for around Labor Day. They usually have a book fair over here, a literary festival. Here's the Franklin Building. So this is called the Franklin Building. You hear the thunder? Yeah, that's the thunderstorms moving through here. So there's a little thunderstorms moving through here. See the Franklin Building, the first impression, that's the Gutenberg printing press there. And look at the nice glazed tile here, the Franklin Company, Franklin Building here. Dearborn Street, 720 South Dearborn Street, South Loop of Chicago. So they got outdoor seating here. See if anybody's coming in the bike path. No, nobody's coming, so yeah, Dearborn Station. Yeah, books are nice. Yeah, there's nice murals there. You see they built it right into the building there. Yeah, we'll stay safe. Yeah, I'm glad we're showing you stuff you haven't seen. We've been down here before, you know. It's just, There's stuff that's easy for me to stream. What time we got? 12:24. Yeah, let's cross the street here. I'll briefly show you the inside of Dearborn Station. We've gone in before, and then we'll have to reverse this. We'll head over, we'll just head up State and work our way to Michigan Avenue and see if they're setting up for the Lollapalooza here, which I'm sure is taking shape. Yeah, that looks pretty dark and foreboding that way here. 47 West Polk. Let's go inside Dearborn Station here a little bit. I'll show you what it looks like. We've been here before too, a lot of times. One time we were here, they were playing bridge. They had a bridge tournament going on. See, this used to be the entrance to Dearborn Station, which was a train station. See how they got the old insignia of the old rail lines here, Santa Fe. And you got a few things here. You see, you can sit out here. That's where we saw people playing bridge and all this stuff over here. Yeah, this is Dearborn Station here, the historic railroad terminal here. Yeah, look, they're playing bridge here. They're playing the see, that's a good way to stay social there. And yeah, I like the columns here. Dearborn Station, the historic railroad station here, South Loop of Chicago. Yeah, look at that. Oops. Look at the stairwell here. Here, I can get the door. Yeah, I'll help you out here.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. There we go. Let's see if the rain's holding up. Yeah, it's raining. There's Dearborn. No problem. You got it? Okay, good. The days like today is when the rain feels good because it's so hot and humid. But here's some of the buildings here in Printers Row here. We've shown this building before. This Plymouth Court is an interesting street. Yeah, we'll head up Plymouth Court here. I just want to show you these fire escapes, and then we'll zigzag over to State Street here. Well, we've shown this many times. This is Plymouth Court here. This is the South Loop of Chicago. See, we just left Dearborn Station there. We went inside. See, look at the nice. Yeah, we're walking again. We're back. We're back in Chicago. I was working last week, so. Yeah, look at these fire escapes here. We got the rain coming down here. Plymouth Court here. Printers Row, South Loop of Chicago. Look at these. I call these chutes and ladders. So here's the ladders of the fire escapes. These ones diagonally, they got so much length on the building they could zigzag down the side. And I like these fire escapes on Plymouth Court here. Yeah. There's always somebody chasing me. There's always someone saying I'm going to get shot. There's always someone saying they hope I get shot. There's someone that always brings up people stalking me. You know, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I don't know if, you know, what does it matter? What does it matter if somebody gets me? You know, nobody cares in the whole scheme of things, just like you and everybody else. In the whole scheme of things, we don't matter. You think the, you know, I don't know why in the age of when the NRA thinks it saved us all by putting the means of mass destruction in everybody's pocket, that they think we're safer. We're actually not as safe. And there's this illusion of safety. You know, just because you got a hot piece of steel in your pocket there doesn't mean you're safe. Could mean you're part of the problem. Here, look at this. Knuckleheads. Knuckleheads Boxing Family Fitness. I like that. Hey, you knucklehead there. Yeah, here, look at the fire escapes here. Plymouth Court here. The rain feels good here. Yeah. So here we'll head over back to State Street. We'll work our way towards Grant Park. We'll see them setting up for Lollapalooza here. But thanks for checking out the South Loop a little bit here. Yeah, there you go, Michael. You got to keep the faith. You know, that's what, you know, I don't know what to tell people. You know, you deal with this too, Michael. You know, you've been watching this. Isn't it amazing that you get insights into human psychology through live streaming, and even my moderators can do it too, because even with the trolls, you get the same tired memes over and over again, and everybody thinks they're the first one to think of it or have an original thought when they're really just regurgitating something else somebody else thought about. Same as me. I'll introduce a new idea. I think I'm all novel, and there'll be somebody else that already said what I said. We all think in patterns, you know, and that's why it becomes exhausting just dealing with the same comments over and over again. But that's the nature of social media, and it's the nature of human existence here. It's the human condition. So here hey, this rain feels good. I'm enjoying this. I got some stuff to wipe down my equipment here, so I'll keep my gimbal dry. Yeah, the psychology grad school. Hey, when I was in college, I had a professor. He was a cognitive psychologist. If you want someone to destroy your mind, you know, take a class with a cognitive psychologist, because they know how humans think and they can get your brain to trick you. He used this all as an experiment there in the class. He would do things like he would do a quiz, and he would put on the fifth it would be stand up and yell hallelujah 3 times, and everybody would get there and they would question it. But you really had to do that to pass the question. And he was trying to see if people would do it or not. You know, and how we all are coerced to just follow orders, you know, and peer pressure. And if somebody, he would study if somebody did it first, if other people would follow along, or, you know, even if they didn't understand what they were doing. Here's the Harrison stop on the red line here. So here's State Street here. So here, let's cross. Well, hey, we're getting wet. This is great. So they're building something here. We noticed there was some new construction. We're still on the South Loop here. We're over by the Jones School. And this is, see, there's the library, DePaul University here. We're getting wet. Yeah, the green line and the orange lines go through here. Yeah, maybe it'll cool off a little bit here with this rain. It feels good. I just want to keep my equipment dry here. I might have to, if this rain keeps up, I might have to take a break here. Maybe we can head under Wabash here a little bit. Yeah, we'll head under the L tracks here a little bit and try to straight dry. Yeah, here comes the orange line. Here comes the orange line heading to Midway. There you can see Roosevelt University there. Yeah, look at it snake through here. Hey, there's the moose blowing the bubble. So I'm going to kind of stay under the L tracks here. Bear with me 1 second. I got to get into this parking lot, and then I can kind of walk under the L tracks here a little bit. Try to stay out of the rain here. But here's the Harmony, the moose blowing the bubble. We filmed these murals before. You see this as you enter Chicago from the South Loop on the green or orange lines from Midway. You see these murals on the back of housing here for DePaul University. There's a Planet Fitness in there, the Harmony. We're underneath the orange and green line tracks there, but there's Jacob Watts. I think these are Columbia University murals there. There's the female suffragettes there. And here, we'll walk. This is where you appreciate the elevated tracks, because it's actually keeping me dry here a little bit as we walk back along. This is Wabash. We cross State Street. Loop Auto Parks. It's raining pretty good. Yeah, rail fan. We got plenty of footage of the CTA, both on TikTok and YouTube, and there's other Chicago live streamers that do the same here. So here, we'll head up. So here, yeah, let's try to get across into the under part of Roosevelt University here. We'll cross the street here because the rain's just not letting up here at all. It's actually getting strong. stronger here. So hold on one second, we'll cross the street here. Yeah, we're getting wet. But here we'll head right over into. This is actually nice. See, look, they're waiting here. We can walk underneath the auditorium building here. Chris's alma mater here, Roosevelt University. We're along Ida B. Wells here. And here I'll show you, this building, we always talk about how it's sinking. So you see the ground here? And so there's the back of the haunted Congress Hotel. There's the Congress Hotel on Michigan Avenue, which is Wabash, Ida B. Wells. This is the auditorium. Louis Sullivan and his partner Donkmar Adler, they designed this in 1892. You notice when you go in here, 1889, actually it says 1889, you see how you step down. The reason you step down, this is how much the ground is settled. The actual floor has settled almost 2 feet here. They got 3 steps down. And so when you enter the auditorium theater lobby, which is here, because they floated this on a, you see, it almost looks like the ground leans. They put this on a concrete pad, and they put so much weight on this side of the building because the tower at the foundation started to sink shortly after they built it. It stopped sinking, it kind of settled, and they stabilized it. And so this perfectly illustrates how much the auditorium on this port side of the building has sunk. Hey, it's still raining pretty good. Prince, ABBA, Billy Joel, Ray Charles, Queen, Psychedelic Furs. So here's upcoming artists: Psychedelic Furs, Airplay, Moon Safari, X and Los Lobos, Boz Skaggs, Sting's coming. These are the upcoming events here at the Auditorium Theater. The Congress Theater. Okay, so you can research the Congress Theater. The main reason the Congress Theater is considered to be haunted in before World War II, in the late 1930s, there was a Jewish woman that was staying in the hotel with her sons, her young sons, and she was a refugee from when the Nazis in Germany started taking over Poland and Eastern Europe. She escaped, somehow got to America, and she was afraid of being deported back to Nazi Germany. Think about the parallels that are going on today. We got people being deported back to countries where they fear for their lives, you know, and that's what happened in the late 30s. A Jewish woman was afraid of being deported back to Nazi Germany, and so she leapt out. She had desperation. She leapt out of the 12th floor window, which was the 13th floor because of the mezzanine, and she also threw her sons out the window. So that that disturbed people a lot when they saw that, and hurt, you know, the poor woman. And so people still see her haunting the place, especially on that floor and the room. You can research it. I'm gonna wait until the light changes. We'll dash across the street. We'll show the setup for Lollapalooza here. So hey, Lollapalooza's setting up here. This is at Ida B. Wells. This is one of the main entrances that lines up with the, and yeah, I got a drop of water. So if you can't hear me, I'll just sign off. I'll just sign off because I know it's hard to hear with the water, and I know it annoys people. So, you know, if it's so annoying you can't hear me with the drop of water, I'll just sign off. And we got some, at least we got to see the South Loop, and we got to see a few things here. It's going to be really hard for me to keep this live stream going with the rain. So I'll tell you what, if it stops raining, I'll sign off. I'll start streaming again. I'm going to end this live because it's just too problematic, and we'll try it again. We'll be on TikTok tonight. You can hear me fine. Why do people say that? Why do people put that in the comments like you want me to stop live streaming because you can't hear me? Here's the Fine Arts Building. I'm worried about my equipment here, so I'll as soon as I'm really hoping the rain's going to taper off. If it doesn't taper off in the next minute, I'm going to have to end this live because I got to walk back to work through this rain here. Yeah, the Fine Arts Building, there it is. Yeah, and the architect was not William LeBaron Jennings. It was the same architect that designed Pullman. I can't think of his name. Chris took a picture of his mural there. It's the same architect that designed Pullman. Designed the Fine Arts Building there. And Pullman, all that housing there. Yeah. Here, let's go down in here for a second. Here's the Metro. They're working on this station. Well, there's a CTA person there. Yeah, okay. So I'm signing off here. It's just raining too much here. I'll come back on if the rain tapers off. Okay, yeah, and the Fine Arts Building, they called the, oops, I'm stepping in water. They called it the Studebaker Theater there. There was the Studebaker Theater. So I got to sign off. Yeah, we'll talk.